Hello and welcome to Eye on Oakland. I'm Chuck Moss, your host. We've got a great guest. We actually have Carrie LeZotte, who is the Director of Cable and Community Relations for Bloomfield Township. Full disclosure, she's my boss. But that's good. We've got a lot of good stuff. But before we get into it, and welcome to the show, how long have you been cable director?
I've been cable director for 3.5 years now, and I have to say I'm not your boss. I'm your advocate.
Advocate.
Yeah, you do not report to me. I am here to work for you and to make sure that you have the facilities in order to continue to do your show for the community.
Yeah, but if there's anything you tell me to do, I better listen, which is good. So here's a question, though.
Sure.
All right. Now, your history with cable, though, goes way back.
It does, yeah.
How far back?
Well, I think even before I knew what cable was, I was appearing on cable. So my first show, I've shown the one that I did in high school, and if I could go back even earlier, the first time I ever appeared was in elementary school, and I was playing Medusa in an elementary school show, and the teacher got us into the studio to record it. So I think someone still may have a copy of that.
Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I am the mighty Medusa. My powers are endless. It was that was what I had to sing.
Now she was a lady that had the snakes for the
Yeah,
heads
the snakes
and
that would
turned
turn
you
people to
stone.
stone. Yes, exactly.
Right, and Jason, the
Yeah.
Mark Hamill Jason and the Argonauts one.
Yeah.
It was and you hear it going around, and all great stuff. But how did they do the snakes on the hair? How did they do that?
I think it must have been some kind of crown.
All right.
I don't remember, but I did have my mother had you used to play dress up in your mother's old clothes, and she had some kind of, it wasn't like a nightgown. I think I don't know, from the 60s, but it had like gold lame through it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was really, I thought it was super fabulous, and when I was only 10 or something.
Well,
so.
sure. I mean, our daughters are dressed up in all kinds of stuff. So, all right. Now, but you worked in Dearborn for a while.
Yes. Well, I was in high school in Dearborn.
Yeah.
I went to Dearborn High with the visionary Russ Gibb running our video production program, and then on the weekends we would go into the cable studio and record back porch video, which at the time, there were ACE awards, and they were winning awards around the country. Some of the older kids were going and meeting with the actual VJs who were doing MTV at the time. So it was a really big deal. And I just didn't know. I just knew that every Saturday night it was the most fun thing to do, was go and do live television. We did live videos.
Now, you just said that very casually and tossed it off with Russ Gibb.
Yeah.
That's Uncle Russ Gibb.
Yes, right.
Okay, Uncle Russ.
Legendary.
More
right?
than legendary.
Yeah.
Now, I was on his show once. I think either the late 80s or early 90s when I was doing the Detroit News thing. And I actually, now.
Russ Gibb at random, jumping up and down.
Oh, yes. He was the most animated guy before Charlie Langton. I mean, it's like, so the deal is that now, what was Uncle Russ Gibb famous for?
Saying that Paul was dead.
That Paul was dead.
Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney. In 1969, and I was in high school when this happened, all of a sudden the rumors start coming about that Paul is dead. Well, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's right now it's 2025, and Sir Paul McCartney is very much alive, but it's like Paul is dead. But see, he was the guy who started that. So, and he was a legendary cable person. So you worked with Uncle Russ Gibb.
Yes, and he put video into the high school and helped fund it and raise money for it at a time when it was one of the first in the country, and we had it in Dearborn, Michigan.
So if anybody knows the nuts and bolts of the cable biz, it's got to be you.
Well, I'm just continuing what other people have already started, because I think that even Dingle was very he was very critical in PEG legislation early on. And so, he did so much for the community, and his wife continued. Congressman John Dingle, right? So, that's just something that I guess is in the community to continue it.
Well, that would be a great segue, but we're not going to do that. We're going to get to pegs later. I would like to ask you, you said that you had a top 10 list. I don't know whether it's a top 10 list or it's a David Letterman 10-0. What you got?
We're going to do 10-0, and
right.
I think, this is the time of year when I start to reflect back on what our accomplishments are at Bloomfield Community Television, and really cable and community relations, because we're more than just the TV station. So I've put together a top 10 list for you.
Well, let's
and so I have to, I remember all the way back to January what we were doing earlier in the year. And so we'll start with 10, which
I'm
is...
lucky if I can remember last week.
Well, I do have a blog, so it helps me remember what I've been doing. So we kicked off the year with legislative trips to both Lansing and Washington, D.C.
Really?
And so, yes. And so both of those trips are really just to remind people of what PEG is and why it's important. And when legislation pops up, what we're asking them to do for us, because a lot of times we have, they have so many things that they have to keep track of. And here in Michigan, PEG funding is $150 million statewide, and in the township, it's about $1 million a year. And we need to preserve those fees. And so, so that's what we talked to the folks in Lansing about. In D.C., it's more of, you wouldn't think that it would impact us as much. However, the FCC is kind of what mandates some of these rules and regulations for us, and they were talking about taking away control from the states. So that's really what we were there, was to say that we still need to maintain state control, because the funding for PEG and cable and community media is from operating in the rights of way, and when they start to erode that those rights for us, then that means our money goes away and our funding goes away. So all of that advocacy, that was back at the beginning of the year.
Local control.
Local control, for sure.
Local control.
Yeah. And the second thing that we did
Before you do
early,
that,
yes.
So you went up to Lansing and you met with your state representatives?
Yes.
Good. And I'm sure, I hope our state representatives were
super
properly
receptive. And
good.
we also do a good job, because we have somebody doing community engagement on my team, and he, Jose Guzman, stays in touch with them on a regular basis. So they knew who we were before I got there.
Yeah,
they didn't maybe know this issue, but...
Yeah, this is a sort of an unwritten rule up in Lansing that the most effective lobbyist is a citizen from your district.
That's right. Number 9, the Township Hall renovations. So I almost forgot about this one. So we did $375,000 in renovations. This is paid for with PEG funding that was set aside for capital expenses only, every year, only capital expenses. And so in Township Hall, this meant new cameras, lighting, microphones, seating for the audience and the elected officials. And then back in the cable building, we got a new switcher to make it all happen. And so the community probably noticed the comfortable chairs, because
noticed the chairs.
They're definitely better.
Yes.
But what I really noticed that, there was always this little hum with the old equipment when it was being broadcast. It was just the faintest little fuzzy little hum, and now it doesn't exist anymore. So the audio is so much more clear. The system is digital now instead of analog, which has its own challenges sometimes. But that was all led by our operations manager, Steve Rhoda. So he really coordinated there were 2 major vendors, and then all of the other, when the painters would come in or they had to fix something, he was the one that was kind of making sure that someone from the township was there.
Steve is the one that keeps it all going.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
He certainly is.
Yes.
Voice of God. Number 3, we won awards. Now, each of these could be their own highlighted item, but I'm going to review these awards that we got. One was for the 2025 Hometown Media Award from the Alliance for Community Media Foundation for Informational Talk Show, Independent Producer, The Franklin Show, produced by Michael Seltzer and starring his Maltese Franklin, who's the real star of that show. And that show, he started it, I guess to highlight, he was a trustee. He just stepped down recently, trustee in Franklin. And so it was to highlight what's going on in Franklin. And then he really fell in love with talking to people in the music business that he's connected to in one way or another. So I think he's done 40 episodes. The other couple awards from NATOA, the National Association of Telecommunication Officers and Advisors. We got 2 awards of recognition. I guess I forgot to write that down, but one was for Fall on the Farm, which captured the Bowers School Farm Festival, and Accuracy Over Speed, which was a behind-the-scenes look of the township's clerk's office and the election workers who serve the community, which that was kind of another really great, really well-received video. And a surprise award came from the Michigan Municipal Clerks Association, because it was an award received by the clerk's office that was recognition for excellence and overall best practices, which included a communication mailer, social media, and of course a video. And I have the mailer, so this is another thing that is done here in our department So I don't know if we can show
Yeah.
this at all. I don't know which camera. So this was kind of like the main piece that we started with, but then there were other things that were
Very nice.
offshoots
She's got a
of
couple
this.
colors here. It's very sharp.
Yes, and what I liked, what we made sure was that it's big enough to read without glasses for people.
Okay,
that,
wait, unfold it.
Yes, you're gonna.
We're gonna test it.
Test it.
Okay, hang on, ready. Yes, it's big enough to read without glasses.
Excellent. And those award-winning segments were also produced by Number 7 Living in Bloomfield magazine shows. So we produced 3 of the full shows, which are about 30-minute shows, made up of 7 to 10 segments. And so Greg Black, who's the other operations manager on the community relations side, oversees that production, which is a really incredible team that they're doing more of the documentary style, and they've elevated production here for us.
Right.
And so it's packaged together as a program, and then all the segments are distributed through social media platforms and individually as separate segments. The other thing that our digital coordinator, Amy McKegg, did, she's responsible for the website, social media, and also print material. She created this brand guide.
Style guide.
Right,
Look at
for the
that.
township. So,
That's gorgeous.
you know, there was different fonts being used by different departments and different colors.
It's got the colors.
So she kind of, we looked at everything that we'd been doing and just kind of pulled it all together so that now there's a standard so that everybody knows the fonts that you're supposed to use when you're representing the township.
I do notice that it's maize and blue.
It is definitely not maize and blue.
Okay, good. Just being sure.
It
I'm a
is
Michigan
definitely
State guy.
not.
Of
Me
course,
too.
After last
Go
weekend.
green.
Yeah, we'll go white. Well, we'll see. All right, well, good.
The other thing that she did was we got a new website, which is now a .gov, because we used to be .org.
Oh, really?
So we had to apply for that, and then it doesn't sound like it would take a lot of work, but it doesn't happen by magic, in that all of the links that you would find on our website have to get changed. And then it also, combining the brand kit and the new website, we have new business cards too here. So here's what mine looks like. And the new website
Nice.
is Bloomfield, TUWPMI.gov.
.gov.
So the old website will still work, but this is now what .gov instead of .org, I think, was a pretty significant change. So that was number 4. And we'll go to number 5 before
We're
take
going to
a
run
break.
out of time, so let's set the break. Yeah, because we're going to run out of the break.
All right.
So what do we got?
The open house, which was coordinated. This is, I think, the 3rd year that our grants and engagement coordinator has pulled it together. And I think it does a really good job of being successful in bringing people to campus that aren't usually here. So we had high schoolers come with the marching band for the 2nd year in a row, and also the Dance Academy and Oakland Gymnastics. So all of those parents, all of those kids come to the cable parking lot and perform, which was an addition that we made a couple of years ago. Which was, traditionally we just did the fire display and the police department, and we've added our thing that brings in other people. So,
All right. What's next? Number 6?
Number 4 in our countdown.
All right.
We're going
we're
up to 1.
We're being
Up
letter-esque.
to 1. Increased engagement by Jose Guzman. So he's been going to the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce, which has resulted in about 20 individual tours of our facility. And then people usually end up on a show like yours. So he makes those introductions. And then he also, just as part of his job, if people call in with a problem with their cable, like if there's a cable line down or something with their bill and they're not getting the service that they need, we can always escalate those calls here at the cable station. And Jose is the one to do it, and he does it
and he's the guy
beautifully.
to do it. Well, here, we're going to run out of time on this segment. We're
Okay.
just going to have to continue this after the break. We're
Sounds
talking
great.
with Carrie LeZotte, who is the Director of Cable and Community Relations here at Bloomfield Township. I'm Chuck Moss. Don't go away. We'll be right back here on Eye on Oakland.
At Bloomfield Community Television, we believe that every community has a unique story to tell. A story of its people, its vision, and its future. Our mission? To help you tell it.
Good evening, soccer fans, and welcome to Birmingham Seaholm High School. I'm Brad.
Difference. A zoom lens allows you to take and
Now, here's Franklin.
Welcome back to Eye on Oakland. I'm Chuck Moss, your host, and we're talking with Carrie LeZotte, who is the Director of Cable and Community Services here for Bloomfield Township. And we were in the midst of a Letterman-esque, for you old-timers there, and for you younger guys, the countdown of a top 10 list that goes from 10 to 1. And we are going down, we're counting down the hits. So, Carrie LeZotte, take it away.
So we're at number 3 on our list, and I have grants, grants implemented. So we didn't get as much grant funding. This has been a weird year for that because, I don't know, there's lots of different things going on. But
No kidding.
we've implemented a couple grants that we received last year, and so we were able to reopen. There's a senior center friendship club that was it closed closed during COVID, and was able to open now 2 days a week because of the funding received from the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, and that was $65,000. And there is a video that I think we're watching right now, and it's just amazing what the Friendship Club is able to do for our senior community, some special residents in our senior community. There was also another $98,000 for adult day services. So that's also providing support for the senior center. So those two combined, and Jose really contributed a lot, found the one grant, and then with Christine Tavaro, the director of the senior center, wrote those grants. And then there was a $300,000 appropriation for public safety related items, new vehicle and gear for public safety. Number 2, we had an incredible addition to our team, Ryan Woolley, who was brought on to develop Sideline Stories, which is a sports, kind of behind the scenes of sports production, what's going on there. And he's a Tigers announcer. He does play-by-play for Eastern Michigan basketball, and he's really a perfect compliment to make us get to our number 1 accomplishment for the year.
Here we go. Yeah, drum roll.
So this was a pretty easy decision. Our sports broadcasting camp was a huge hit, and so we had 7 youth that came through a production camp with our team for 7 days, and Ryan supported the on-camera coaching for that and the direction of those kids. But the entire team, like when I say the entire team, my part-time staff, so there's about 20 of them, were involved in one way or another because they support our sports production that happens all of the time. So they, the kids came in for a camp program that was from 9 to 3, Monday through Thursday, and then second week they all went out and produced the 6th annual Keith Bernaki Cup, which is a soccer matchup between Brother Rice and Seaholm high schools, and so they were able to be there for the setup and the production and the tear down of that event.
Brother Rice versus Seaholm.
Yeah,
that's big fun.
Yes, and I think that the teaching and exposure that they get to the broadcasting skills, this is kind of taking us back to when we were talking about where I was involved with Back Porch Video.
Right.
So at the time, that's what we were doing, was this live video show. But now, broadcasting, sports broadcasting, that is still where the money is. And these kids got exposure to a future career in a way that you really can't get it anywhere else from professionals who are doing the work. So I think that was, it was being able to teach those skills, but also for the team to be able to see how the kids responded. And it was just a really fantastic thing. Kind of brought everything together, what we're supposed to be doing here in community access television.
Well, good. Not only bringing the community and covering the events, the games and stuff, but also bringing the kids in and letting them, for all you know, a future one may be the cable manager here.
That's right.
Very good. Now, we were talking before, we kept hitting on this subject and kind of going around it, what we call PEG fees. What are those?
So PEG fees are fees that consumers pay for as part of their cable bill. So they pay it for cable, not for streaming. And that's where the challenge exists today, because the legislation has not kept up with technology. And so where we're running into trouble is that, it's not just semantics when they're saying for cable, it's not for video services, which is really what we're looking to try and change the language to.
Okay, so let me jump in here. By PEG, it's public entertainment,
Public-
and education.
Education.
Education and
And
government.
government, right.
See, I remember in the early 80s, these guys coming down and stringing this cable along, and that was it. It was like, what the heck is this? No, this is MTV. I mean, before that, all we got was, 3 channels, Windsor for hockey and Channel 20 for the Ghoul. So now we have this whole universe open to us, and that's when it started. You had to use the right of way to get through, and for the companies to come through and make this technology available, they had to pay what we call public education and government and provide that.
Yeah.
That's one reason why we have these have this infrastructure. So let me make sure I understand, and I'm going to ask you
Yes.
that the PEG fees come from the subscribers to the cable show.
Yes.
Now, from the 80s through quite recently, when everybody did that, no problem. With enough people cutting the cable now,
Right.
we've got what we used to call in Lansing a structural deficiency in revenue.
Yes.
So what's going on with that now?
We really are trying to make sure that there's legislation where it would protect streamers from ever having to pay, and streamers like streaming instead of cable, it's more like the individual Netflix. And there are places in the country where there are fees attached to that. But that's what we're really trying to preserve, because as soon as they say streamers don't have to pay, then the people doing cable, traditional cable, they're saying, well, we're just like that, so we shouldn't have to pay either. And then the funding could evaporate pretty much instantaneously. So that's what we're just constantly reminding our elected officials and our legislators, like, which way they should be voting on things. And so that's kind of, it's been the sky is falling, Chicken Little for 20 plus years. And so now we might be actually at the stage where, we're really seeing the revenue diminish. And so that's what we're working towards, both with the local, the statewide organizations, and at the national level. Everybody is facing this.
Well,
So-
sort of it's analogous, not totally, of course, applicable, but imagine all your road funding is coming from gasoline taxes. But cars, not only do you have the EVs, but you also have greater fuel efficiency, so you're not buying as much gas. And if you're not buying as much gas, but you still drive on the roads, you have once again a structural deficiency in your revenue. You're
Right.
getting less money, and it's not just
Yes.
because of that; it's actually structural built in. So, what are some of the ideas you're thinking about to address this?
Well, just helping people understand what it is that they get for these PEG fees, because when you're talking about road funding, in a lot of communities, the franchise fees do pay for some roads and public safety and parks and anything else that the community wants. And so it's only the PEG fees that are really set aside for capital expenses related to cable, for things like the Township Hall renovations or this podcast studio. So that's what the PEG fees are paid for, and we get about $400,000 a year from them. And I also want to just mention, so Bloomfield, we are the P and the G combined.
Right.
The E is Bloomfield Hills High School, so they get a little bit of money from us to fund some equipment purchases, and they operate the educational part of that. And then we also support a contract for the Birmingham Area Cable Board, which includes Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Franklin, and Beverly Hills. And then we also support Bloomfield Hills. So 6 communities in total right here in Bloomfield Township.
We just call them the Killer Bees plus Franklin. Is
Yeah.
it Birmingham, Bingham, Franklin? Yeah. So, so the deal is that it's not just shows like this, which of course I would think is an overwhelming public good, but nonetheless, this is how you carry your city council, city commission meetings.
Right. Transparency in government is provided
Absolute
by
transparency.
and also not just transparency, but access to people that can't make it out, and can't make it out of their house. They can watch it they can watch it live, and they can watch it on the recording.
Yeah. One city commission days. We had one guy who shows up. This is around 9 o'clock or so, and the guy is wearing. It's winter, so he's got like boots on, and he's got a heavy overcoat on, and underneath he's got his pajamas. And he walks up to the mic. He says, "You idiots, you morons, you buttheads, you fools! I was at home in bed, and I turn this on, and I see what fools you people are making yourselves. I had to come down here." And I was just like, I said, "Excuse me, get that man's name. He's like our citizen of the year. We should like name City Hall for this guy."
Chuck, I do have a question for you. How long have you been doing this show? It's been a while.
This is year 21.
Really?
This is year 21. We started in 04. And I didn't, when COVID came, okay, so it's 2020. And in March of 2020, I had 2 people coming in on a Monday to talk about what the heck is this COVID thing. And they called me, was it Wednesday or Thursday, saying we were shut down. And I'm like, what do you mean we're shut down? We're talking about, no, we're shut down by order of the. So I said, fine, it's going to be a couple of weeks. Sure enough, it was not a couple of weeks. And then by April, I realized I'm out of business if I don't figure out how to use Zoom. And I got back on. So I only missed 2 months.
Well, I am happy you brought up COVID because community television really, not just here, but in a lot of places, was what people were relying on for local information from their local government. So I know Steve and Greg really had to work extra hard to, get everything up and running and understand Zoom and be a part of that transition.
Yeah, and you guys made it easy. I mean, I'm really literally sitting at home thinking, what the heck, I'm out of business. I got to figure out how to, and they said, well, you've learned Zoom. And I said, okay. And
so do you know how many shows you've done? Or just 21? 21 years is a lot of years. How many shows?
21 years. Okay, we do 21 years and generally do 10 months, sometimes 11 months. Usually we knock off in December because it's hard, and there's usually 1 month or so where something happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is your, when we started, we're back in the old studio, the big studio, with giant sets, and we had 3 cameras with a camera person at each one.
Right.
Running around with all the snakes. It was, and it was fabulous. I had this big space, and now it's miniaturization. It's robotics.
Robotics, yeah.
So, so I'm really, it's not true that we interviewed T-Rexes and dinosaurs in the old days and mastodons, but we definitely kept it going through all these years.
Well, I really appreciate you helping us tell the story.
Over 500 shows.
500 shows. Wow.
500 shows. But I never won one of those awards, so there we go.
Not yet. There's still time.
I won one of those Philos. They look really great.
Okay.
They look like Emmys. I'll take one. But we're still doing it. Dave Potts is my co-host for a while, and it was great. And just still here and still doing it.
Well, thank you, Chuck.
Well, thank you. We still got a couple minutes. Of all your top 10 lists, real quick, very quick, what's the one you're most proud of?
Oh, I'm telling you, that sports camp, it was really, other stations have done it. It was the first year that we took it on ourselves. And I was just so proud of the team for being up to the challenge and for the way they were able to execute on it. And then to hear the comments from the community, it really, we've been going under an external review here at the station, and the sports camp was kind of in tandem at the same time, and to have such an accomplishment and getting such tremendous feedback at a time when our operations are being looked at, it was really good timing for something like that.
Well, you're also budding a future Ernie Harwell, or future well, we can name no names. People talking about the old days, Sonny Elliott, for weatherman. A future talent.
Yes, absolutely,
including yourself. Yes.
Right.
So once again, is really, before we run out of time in the next 15 seconds, if you could do one thing, what would it be?
So I'll tell you, someone asked me, we were in a lottery pool, and if I won the lottery, what I was going to be able to do with it. And what I told him was that I would just, run a bigger studio, because I love producing. I love making television happen, or video content, whatever you want to call it. And so I would just keep doing it.
Very good. I won the lottery, I'd buy the house next door and have more dachshunds. Other than that, I'd be fine. All right, well, we're talking with Carrie LeZotte, who's the Director of Cable and Community Relations, which, as we see, is a very big job. Goes more than just TV. For Bloomfield Township and for, of course, the Birmingham area, Bloomfield area Cable Board. Thank you for joining us, and thank you all for joining us here on Eye on Oakland.